Okay, so I wanted to make this video because there was a comment in my comment section that caught my attention, and believe it or not, I read everything. Everything that you guys write to me, I pay attention to, whether it's good or bad. And it was regarding my comments on the Prophet Muhammad in regarding him being with a 9-year-old at the time of year wherever he was born or whatever, that era. I thought I explained myself very well, but there was comments that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I thought, let me just state what I was saying and make it very, very clear so there's no false interpretation going forward, or anybody wants to come back to this video and say, look what he's justifying. First of all, I would never condone any grown man being with a 9-year-old. Okay, let me just make that clear. Second of all, I'm not Muslim, so I have no reason to defend the Prophet Muhammad. I've got nothing against Muslims. I respect my Muslim brethren, the ones that I've grown up with and the ones out there that are just living peacefully. Got nothing against you, but I am not Muslim. So I have no reason to be biased and support the Prophet Muhammad. I was only speaking the truth. I speak the truth to power. Speak the truth and make the devil shame. That's how I do things, okay? What I was trying to explain was that the Prophet Muhammad was around in an era that we have never ever been around to see. You know, he was alive before the year 1000. So I was trying to explain we're imposing our lifestyles and our living conditions and how we see things based on a time that was completely different back then. That's what I was defending, not exactly defending the Prophet Muhammad and what he did allegedly with a 9-year-old. Okay, so the best way I can explain it is, well, first off, I'll read the comment that really caught my attention and then I'll explain my case. So there was a comment from W1RES04 and it states, what an effing stupid comment. And then he quotes me saying, in this era, there were no rules. Then he carries on to write, you said it yourself. You don't even like most 18-year-olds because they look like children. 9 is half that effing age. An actual child. You need a rule book or laws to tell you that a grown adult being with somebody that age is wrong? And then he puts an emoji with a hand over the face. How comes most other religions and general accounts of society right through history before these laws has never gave us this idea was right or the done thing? It's not just men deciding on a law. They could say 11, but there's science in it. Puberty, the human body's development, but the less importance a culture wants to give. That is why you have some very backward ones with such low ages. Even today, let alone history. Doesn't mean for 1 second it's right or you have to defend it. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain my case. I'm going to go slightly around the houses, but it's all going to make sense towards the end. Okay, so take me, for example. I'm a 6'2" black lad, yeah? I weigh about 225 pounds. Let's use a very cliche, stereotypical example, okay? I like chicken, yeah? Not necessarily fried, but I like cooked chicken. If somebody goes to a supermarket, buys well-sourced chicken, they end up cleaning the chicken very well. Then they end up seasoning that chicken very well, the way I like it. Then they end up cooking that chicken and then putting it on a plate and then giving me that chicken when I just so happen to be hungry. I, 6'2" black man me, weighing 225 pounds, roughly, I'm going to eat that chicken, okay? No problems. Now, if that same person went and got a cat or a dog and chopped up that cat and dog, cleaned the meat of the cat and dog, seasoned the meat of the cat and dog, and then cooked the meat of the cat or dog, and then served it on a plate to me knowing full well it's a cat or a dog on this plate, and then said, eat up while I'm hungry, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell them no. I'm going to tell them I'm not eating that. Do you want to know why? In the world I live in, cats are pets and dogs are pets. You can't put no animal like that on a plate and expect me to eat it. But you can put chicken on a plate. You can put cow, beef on a plate. You can put lamb on a plate. You can put fish on a plate for me. You can't put no pork on a plate, but I understand people in the West where I've been born, they eat that. But you can't put no cat, dog, rat, fox, none of them things there so may I touch. Because in the West, since I've been born, I've been told that there's certain animals that are pets and there's certain animals that are eligible to eat. And those ones that are eligible to eat stay on a farm majorly or in the sea, and the ones that are pets, we don't eat. They go stay outside and go run up and down and go kiss each other and sniff each other's ass and all of them something there. And then we pet those animals and look after certain ones. And then we eat others. That's what the West taught me from being a baby. Now, if you go to China, they'll eat puss and dog. Cat on a plate, dog on a plate. I've seen documentaries where they eat a horse penis, one big long something on a piece of plate, dipped in batter, looking like a big long fish from the fish and chip shop, but it's actually a horse's penis. Or Chinaman, I'll put a handkerchief on, big long something, dipped in batter, ready for yam. There's places in China that have no problem eating cats and dogs, and that's no disrespect to them. But in their geographical area of land, culturally, they will eat that, and they have no problem with it. But if you give a cat and dog on a plate to me in the West, I'm going to be disgusted by that because I've not been brought up around that culturally. Heck, if somebody tried to feed you a cat and dog in this country, you're going to go to jail. If you attempt to kill a cat and eat it and someone finds you, you're going to get some form of criminal charge. Because in the West, culturally, we don't put up with those things. But I tell you what, if I was born in China and somebody gave me cats and dogs as a baby to eat, guess what? I'd be my big whole age not thinking anything's wrong with that because I'd be born into it. Now, cut to the Prophet Muhammad. I live in the West. The law tells me from the moment I became of age to understand how laws work, the law tells me that the legal age of adulthood in the UK is 18. Once you hit 18, you can now go to the shop and buy alcohol. You can now buy a pornographic material magazine from the top shelf in a corner store if you want to. You can now go to a club with adults and alcohol being drunk. You can do all of these things that adults can that you couldn't do before you became the age of 18. So I was born into that. And a lot of the people from my country, they know this because they were born into it. So the premise was already set by a group of, I don't know, whoever made these rules. I've never done my research on it, but I'm assuming it's a group of white folks because the group of white folks, they run England. It's a history of a predominantly white country. They got together and they said the legal age is 18. So then what happened then is, not just me, societal, most logical, law-abiding human beings saw that law as a base standard, and then they developed their morals and ethic values around those standards, those laws, I should say. So the law was in place, and then they built their moralistic code on top of those laws. So you've got some people that clearly don't want to follow those rules and have their own morals, and then they go and break these laws, and then they end up in jail for breaking these laws. And then not only do they end up in jail, they can be smeared for breaking these laws. So me, I don't want to break the law, getting with somebody under the age of 18. I don't want to be called a pedophile or a nonce or any of these horrible things and have my family and friends smear me and be tagged with these disgusting things. I don't want to be a person that's applied to being in jail on the VIP wing because I'm scared that somebody's going to hurt me. No, I don't want to be anything involved in that. But that's not my reason that I don't want to not be in that position. I will follow the law regardless. But my personal view and moralistic code, which is based on a solid foundation of not wanting to go against the law, I just so happen to not want to date a girl that I'm legally allowed to. That's the age of 18, because I am a person in my 30s. When I see somebody of that age, they're overwhelmingly built like, as far as I'm concerned, a child. I don't care if I'm legally allowed to do it. I don't want to be with a woman that looks like a child. Hence why when I've gone to the gym, a woman chatted me up in the gym one time. She was roughly 27. She was built like a child. She really liked me. She wanted to go out. I couldn't do it because she was built like a child. I've been to the club and I remember being in a club and I saw this thick woman, just the way I like it. I'm a stereotypical black man in my preference. I like my women thick. I like when my hands can sink into the thighs. I just like that. That's just me. I remember chatting this girl up at the bar, and then when she told me her age, she said she was, I think at the time, 16 or 17, one of those ages. I said, excuse me? Basically, she got in on either a fake ID or the bouncer didn't just check to see if she had an ID and he let her in because she looked like a grown woman. I turned around and said, thank you for your time, and walked off. So I've had scenarios where I've got a woman who's of age that looks like a child and I've said no. And then a woman underage that I've approached in the club. She was in the club illegally, but once she told me her age, I walked away. So with me, it's not necessarily just about staying above the law. I'm not interested in any woman that looks like she's underdeveloped. Prepubescence, I'm not interested in anything like that. If she's underage or she looks prepubescent, I'm not interested because of the laws that were based on what I've been born into. My morals and ethics are based on what the foundation of the laws are, and then I develop my moralistic code. That's how all human beings pretty much operate. And the people that don't want to follow the law and then want to defy that law, they end up in jail. The PDFs. They exist. Now, based on these group of white men that have made this law, in other countries, whoever runs these other countries, they didn't decide the age of 18 is where they hit the marker. In some countries, they say 16. Heck, in some countries, I've heard they said the age of like 12 and something. Crazy. So think about it. If you get with a girl in my country under the age of 18, you'll be classed as a PDF. But if you get with a girl in, I don't know, one of these foreign mad countries, who's 17, you're not classed as a PDF. So basically, you go over a border, 1 minute you're a PDF here, but then you're not a PDF there. What does that tell you? That man is just making up these specific rules. There's no real premise that's set globally for everything. Now let's move to the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad, it's alleged, and I mean no disrespect to any Muslim out there, because this is their religion. Apparently, he had relations with a girl named Aisha at the age of 9. The Prophet Muhammad was born in, let's see. So it says here, he was born in 570 CE. Now I looked up the term CE. It says it stands for common era. So 570 CE, that means we've not even hit the thousands yet. Yeah? Right now, this is 2026. That was 570. The question I would like to ask anybody who's upset with what I said, where was the group of white men or whoever to set the foundation of laws back then, so then the Prophet Muhammad knew he was doing something wrong? Because it's easy for me to turn around and say the Prophet Muhammad shouldn't have done that then. While I'm sat in my era, I'm from the 90s, and this is 2026. My whole entire life, all I've known is you don't go, once you hit to the age of 18, yeah, and then you're in your 20s and your 30s, sensible people don't go anything under the age of 18. Heck, morally, you ain't supposed to be under anybody the age of 25 in your 30s. That's just a moral decision. But the legal decision, don't touch anybody under 18. That's what I've been taught. And that's how I built my moral compass around. Where was this moral compass and these laws for the Prophet Muhammad in 570? I've not done my research. I've never read the Quran. I don't know anything about it. But 570? Think about it. We don't have to go too far back. We can go to, I don't know, Henry VIII. This man was chopping off women's heads simply because he didn't want to be with them anymore. Just because he wanted to get with another woman, he's chopping off people's heads, straight guillotine. We've had the medieval era where people were just going around calling women witches. Witch! And then burning these women on forks and fires around, and people are watching this woman burn. And their idea was, well, if you're a witch, you'll be able to get yourself out of this fire. If you're not a witch, then, well, we got it wrong, but you're still dead. How effed up is that? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The amount of rapes, killings, slaughters, people being hanged, kids sat there watching. Because in that era, that's all they knew. To them, it was normal to watch somebody be hanged or had their head chopped off, blood and guts everywhere. You couldn't do that with a kid today. You show that to kids in real life, they're going to be distraught because they weren't born into that era. But the kids back then, they were born into that era. We don't even have to go we don't have to go really far. In America, they were hanging black people, and there were kids and white folks sat next to black people being hanged, and, you know, kids in the picture. They were born into it, so they didn't see anything grotesque about it. That's not to defend that crap. It was disgusting. But when you're born into something and people around you are telling you it's okay, you don't know any better. So I'm not defending the Prophet Muhammad. What I was defending is the fact that he was born in 570 CE. I don't even know if that's before Christ. I don't know. But we're trying to impose our day-to-day values and our ethics and our morals, our civil living conditions on a man that was born thousands of years ago who probably didn't have those same rules. We can talk about he's a grown man, he should have had this moral compass. Where was Henry VIII's moral compass when he was chopping off women's heads? So does that mean if there's a British-born white man that, and I don't advocate any of this is educational what I'm trying to say. If there's a British-born white man who chops off a person's head in a disgusting murder, does that give people to say, look, this is remembrance of the monarchy and look what Henry VIII did. It's in their nature. English people. Look, if somebody goes and sets somebody on fire in an arson attack, look, this is remembrance of when they used to burn people in fires. Look at their culture, English culture. It's a stupid thing to say. Again, not to repeat myself, I'm not condoning what the Prophet Muhammad did. I'm just trying to make it clear that he was in an era where the ethics and morals that we have today weren't there back then. From then, 570 when he was born till now, we've had wars, we've had killings, pillaging, colonization, mass murder. King Leopold II killed millions and millions of black people. I think it was like 10, 11, 12. We had the situation with the Holocaust, what happened to Jews, what Hitler did, gassing them. We had slavery for 400 years in America. We had slavery in Egypt. We had the Armenian genocide. We've had all types of disgusting, horrible things that have happened through history. And you would like to think we're getting into a day where a lot of that barbarism can be just stopped and put behind us. It still goes on in areas, especially in the Middle East, but you would like to think people of today's day, especially in the West, are more civil than the people back then. So to sit there and just signal out what the Prophet Muhammad did, and then you want to go and use a person that's Pakistani to then try and claim that when a Pakistani breaks the law and gets with an underage person or somebody that's a believer in Islam, look, it's remembrance of the Prophet Muhammad. I'm going to flip in a minute. There's white people that have messed with younger kids. There's black people that have messed with younger kids. Chinese, Pakistanis, Mexicans. Every race has done that horrible deed. Are we now going to link them back to a person that did it in their past? You know, are we going to try and just link everything? You know, so when British white people commit a crime and murder somebody, this is remembrance of the medieval days when they were going around with swords. This is the monarchy shouldn't be here because of what they represent. All that ownership and killing, taking over, conquering other countries. Would we start saying that every time a white person in Britain does something wrong? It'd be stupid to say something like that. It'd be stupid. So all I was trying to explain is I don't condone what the Prophet Muhammad allegedly did. I'm just giving you a realistic view in the era he was from. There isn't necessarily people telling him he was wrong the way people tell us today it was wrong. 570 CE, and we want to act like people behaved like us now, like they did back then. That's all. I was just having a realistic view regarding the era, not the action. The action I will never condone because I've been born into a society that doesn't permit that. And then I developed my own output based on the rules that were set by, I don't know, the British government. But everything I do based on my moral compass will always be based on what the laws have put in place first. And then I'll have my moralistic viewpoint being added onto that. That's how all human beings work. I'm a black man from Britain. You could never feed me a cat or a dog on a plate, but you can feed it to the Chinaman over in China. One or two places, they'll have no problem eating that. I wouldn't eat it. But if I lived in China and I was born in China, I probably would. Area, culture, time frames, all of those things need to be considered when you go and open your mouth and try and label somebody as something simply because you just don't like them. I've said enough. Like and subscribe. Give me your honest view in the comment section. I hope I've explained myself very well.